Okay, good evening to everybody. I want to welcome you to this open mic session of the DCAC 2023. I'm very happy to welcome everybody to this year's conference. We decided also this year to have this hybrid mode with the online video session for Friday, for this day, and tomorrow we will have the physical presence conference in the Ionian Academy in Corfu. Since we had some technical issues, we have all these years with COVID. We had in the beginning we had no conference at all, and then we had only online, and then we started the hybrid mode. Hopefully next year we'll have everything on site in the Ionian Academy, and we will always, of course, have the opportunity for some participants to give their talks through Zoom and have this hybrid mode, live mode, let's say, not with pre-recorded videos like we did today. We watched some very interesting presentations with a variance of topics, and we have this session here to discuss with the participants and some viewers who have questions. We have a colleague, Vasileios Komianos, to coordinate this session.
Hello, everyone.
And so I don't want to say more. Please, Vasileios.
Thank you, Michalis. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. It was really interesting, and I'm glad to see you here. We watched your very interesting presentations. The truth is that each presentation was interesting in its way, and I would be happy to discuss about all of them. I don't know if we will have the time to do so. This is one of the problems that we have with the online sessions. When we are on site, it is more convenient. We can have coffee breaks and discuss more conveniently. Anyway, we are in the moment that we call cold start. It's a bit awkward for someone to begin and ask questions, but I would like to ask you if you have any questions regarding any presentations that we have watched today, that please, you are welcome to do so. So I'll give you a moment to take a deep breath and think if you have something to ask. You can raise your hands, or I'll begin. Okay, let's have some talking. Each year we see some very particular thematic categories around which many works revolve. I took some notes. I can see some topics such as artificial intelligence, which is a hot topic these days, as we all know. And we watched some very interesting presentations. Regarding artificial intelligence, well, we have some new approaches in creativity. In particular, to our conference, we saw some, just a moment, to accept somebody from the waiting room, text-to-image approaches that we use text prompts, we give commands. Leonidas, I see you raise your hand. We use text prompts to produce images. Well, it was not only Leonidas. I saw also Marina Rigu. Yeah, Marina is with us. I can't see her.
Just say hello to everyone.
Hello, Leonidas.
And hello, Vasilis.
Nice
At
to meet
last.
you.
Γεια σου, Μιχάλη. Hello, Michalis.
And also we have a very interesting presentation from Lionel Lalum. Lionel? Oh, hello, Lionel. Well, so
Hello.
we can.
My mic was cut.
We can have a brief discussion on your topic.
Yes.
As I see you introduced some new approaches. Leonidas, would you like to tell us something about the whole idea?
Of course.
Yeah.
Hello.
And Lionel
Hi,
also.
Lionel.
Hello.
Be my guest. Start first, my friend.
Thank you. So the main idea is a creative approach. So I consider the text not only by the semantic value, but by all that will the text that a human will type. And so I defined a process of typing, and this process will differentiate an artificial agent or a human that give a text to the text-to-image system. So what is interesting is that by this way, the text is both a meaning, a form, and I define different types of form that the text gives, and the experience of the user. And Marina talked about the creativity by using a text-to-image, Midjourney, DALL-E, etc. But creativity can concern the system, the user, with an author by typing his text, and the result, the product. So in my presentation, I quote Jonas Oppenländer, who used the Melrose 4P method, person, product, process, and press, to analyze Midjourney. And that's the way he says that all the human creativity is not used by using a text-to-image. Considering this this point of view, I say that I will focus on the human who is typing, what he's living, and finally, if I take the same sentence like I'm typing a text, it won't be the same sentence if I wrote it on morning when I'm well awake, and at late in evening when I'm asleep. But the text itself doesn't translate this state when I'm typing. I wanted to inscribe in the image something slight that translates the conditions that I lived when I type. That's more or less the start of the idea of the typing to scene system, typing to image system.
Okay, this is very interesting.
Thanks.
And quite complicated, I think. I'm not sure I've completely understood the whole concept, but thank you anyway. Leonidas, do you have any idea on this?
Yeah, sure. First of all, sounds very interesting indeed, Lionel's work, and congratulations about that, my friend. We also made some effort to produce images, especially for the sector of filmmaking in our presentation this time. Our job was to find a way to harmonically produce images to be used as assets in the storyboarding process of filmmaking. So we used image prompting. What is image prompting? As Lionel said, you write some conditions, some targeted text in order to produce your desired outcomes. That is some images. So we tried to replicate, in a way, some assets of the film Flickering Souls of Dr. Panagopoulos, an awarded film, short film. So Iakovos borrowed us his assets, his storyboards, and we did our best and used targeted image prompting in order to replicate them in the best way possible. That means with the same perspectives, as they are very important in the section of filmmaking, and as good as it could be, the same consistency of the characters that were depicted in the storyboards of the original film. So our presentation showed some scenes from the film before the original ones and after the produced ones. We also used an image prompt that turned animated afterwards. So in a way, we used an AI woman host to host our presentation. I think I hope everybody found it interesting, and we also showed how important is this process of image prompting in general, as also Lionel underlined it. We tried to say that the process of image prompting gives many opportunities to many people. For example, it gives opportunities to people who can't draw at all, who don't have the the know-how, because there is always a know-how in the drawing process. Also for people with special needs that can't draw due to some special conditions. For example, some people don't have hands, some people can't see. This process of image prompting can give them an opportunity to create art, and not just art, high quality pieces of art. So all in all, I think it was a very interesting subject, both to us who tried to do some research on it, and I think also the viewers and all the participants, I hope they found it equally interesting. So that's from my point of view. I'm always happy and open to hear your views.
I think we all found it really interesting. I can say I am one of those that I can't draw at all. So it is really useful to have such tools. We can create very nice things. I have one question, both for Lionel and Leonidas.
Of course.
Given that we don't have control on the training data sets, because the systems have a data set feed with many images, so that can produce new images. How this continuous training affects, if it affects at all, your research? Given that maybe 1 year from now, if I give the same prompt as those you gave for your research, maybe I'll get quite different results.
Yeah, if I'm allowed to speak first, Lionel, thanks. I'll just be quick. My point of view is that in some time from now, the quality of the images will surely may be different. It surely may be also, though, arbitrary. That means these engines, if you write, I want to create a cat bicycling in the streets of London, okay, you can achieve this just by saying this simple prompt. The process, though, to create an optimal result is totally different, because by simply writing a simple prompt, you may have your result, you may not. The engines appear to have an arbitrary law. They produce whatever they want. They even produce a cat without a tail, without ears, 2 cats, 3 cats. I mean, if you want to be precise, you have to use targeted image prompting. You have to use some specific keywording, some specific rules that apply differently to each engine, because from small research I have done, until now I have tested around 26 to 25 engines. There are, of course, many more, and they will keep coming. But each engine has its different approach and needs different approach. So I think that by at least what I try to do in my PhD now is try to find an optimal way to produce a scalable methodology that can create via text prompting, that can create very good high quality artwork. So if we use rules, specific keywords, and specific prompt text, we can have very good results. If we don't, we will have very random results, possibly very lower quality images. So that's from me. I would really like to hear Lionel, and thanks for your time. And sorry if I was too long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's very interesting, Leonidas. I would add that you're talking about prompt engineering. That is quite a new job. And it reveals that there are types of text more or less well-fitted to text-to-image systems. And a part of my PhD thesis is to explore which type of texts, which functions of text are well-fitted or not to text-to-image and to text-to-scene in order to generate 3D scenes. And it's not exactly the same method, the same approach. So it's not the same type of text that will be well-fitted. And especially the form and the experience of text typing will be well-fitted with types of text that are not fitted to text-to-image. For example, taking all the characters as a set is okay for a text that does not have an explicit representation. And without an explicit representation, as you said, it won't be easy to generate a precise image. From what you said, Vasileios, if you ask to 2 human people to draw something from a prompt, they will draw according to their skills and their conditioning. With different cultures, that's a semiotic approach. I won't draw the same thing. It's the same for the database. The way it will be trained will condition it what the system will be capable of. And we should remember that we are only in 2020s, but only in 20s. In 10 years, it won't be the same. It won't be the same because we will have the law of Monroe that will allow us to train our own system, even if today it's too expensive and too long. And this way we will condition it, the training. So we will have systems more fitted to some kind of generations for scenes, for image, and for types of image. For example, my sister is a dietitian, and maybe she will create a text-to-image fitted to design plates according to the treatment she gives. We still don't know. I think that all the generation process is an exploration of the latent space, technically. And the question is how I will explore the latent space to choose this or this image to propose to the user. And then it's more or less random. So as it's a seed, a random process, I can use the semiotics of the text or the set of characters to make a choice guided by the content of the text, the form content of the text, or the experience data that I will extract for the typing experience. So it's modalities that are more or less creative approach, more than something specific and pragmatic.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot.
I'm also curious to see what will happen in the next years when these models will be able to feed themselves with their own results. Yeah. Especially as we know that they hallucinate, they produce results that do not respond to the reality, which in some cases maybe is not the optimal scenario.
Vasileios, I would like to add also, and to Lionel, that it is very important that, okay, the digital, the text fingerprints, if I'm allowed to say, I mean, the prompt used to produce an image in 10 years from now may be obsolete, but the image produced will never be obsolete because it will be still a form of art, and forms of art never die. And I would also like to say that it's very important, if we can, to blend images from AI with images from us, if we can and if possible. I mean, I personally want to blend some images, hand-drawn images from me, to the AI engines, so that way we will have an artistic fingerprint that will never die, even many years after. So I'm not worrying about the outcomes that we can produce today with this method, because they will still be here even after 10 years. Okay, the text, nobody knows in 10 years if it will exist yet. Maybe it will, and it will have new rules. Maybe it will not, but the artwork will never die. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. We focused a lot on the text, but there are other approaches to communicate with the computer machine. I'm glad to see Nefeli Dimitriadi among us, because she presented us some very interesting ideas about brain-computer interfaces, and that she uses on VR cinema. Is that right?
Yes, it's an experiment that I really look forward to into releasing it. So we are in post-production process and done a lot of work in that area to understand, as I explained also in my presentation, both sides, the creative, how to use the brain-computer interfaces in a creative way in order to enhance the narrative in a way that will show to the viewer not only a change in the narrative based on the input from the brain-computer interface and how that could change the narrative, but also in a way that narratively and in the concept of the work can show to the viewer something about themselves, so use this kind of as a visual feedback so that the person sees what is going on inside their brains, but in a story, in a context of a cinematic narrative. Because we have already used this technology, and I've just completed the project on medical rehabilitation and trying to use brain-computer interfaces, and we have successfully used brain-computer interfaces, and especially the emotive interface and the whole platform to record data from the viewers during them watching, getting immersed into an experience in virtual reality. So that's an experiment that hasn't been made yet because of the hardware issues that I showed in my presentation, where it's really hard to wear the EEG and wear the VR cast. So this is a domain of really no innovation, because we need to have these two combined, especially because during the VR experience, we assessed with our experiments that the reactions of the viewer are much more intense. There are many aspects of the behavior, of the human behavior, that can be researched when we can watch what's going on inside the brain when they're watching something in VR versus watching it on a screen, on an actual screen, so on another interface that is not immersive. And the only examples that we had in cinema are very few, and they're always a projection that is connected, where you get the input from the brain computer interface to change the narrative, as it was in the in a kind of a horror film that was made for that in cinematic media. But now that we can, we have assessed that we can actually use the VR headsets with with adaptations of the hardware, customize the hardware so that it doesn't hinder the emotive, the EEG, and use specific equipment that can be used at the same time. We see that it's very important to have this interface integrated with the virtual reality headsets, if we want to use that in cinema in a way that is going to be really impactful. So I don't know if you want, I don't want to take all the time on that subject. I could talk for hours, but it's very interesting. It's a very exciting to know that we can actually do that. And of course, to include in the gameplay, in the actual interaction, to include the BCIs as the motor of interaction enhances the kind of the narrative that is not so obvious, that is not based on conscious choices, and can really surprise the viewer, and can also show them something that they internally probably didn't know, but affected the actual narrative.
Thank you very much. It is also a great solution for disabled users that cannot interact with the ways that we are used to interact with computer machines. And so this is an idea that we can continue. If you want to add something to this.
Yeah, to add to that because the time, the 14 minutes of the presentation are not enough to present all the findings, that I hope that in the paper version that we will be able to expand and have the findings there as well. That definitely the people, because we use that in medical rehabilitation, the people that have the lockdown syndrome, we have two basic interfaces helping them interacting with audiovisual content in general, and this is the eye tracking device, if they can move their eyes. But there are people that have a very, a hard time to even do that in a consistent way, to be able to choose things with their eyes, and having their brain, as a way to interact with audiovisual content can really help them have a life and also communicate with their close people, because they can actually choose, what to with the eye tracking device. You can actually make them write something. You can have them write a sentence. But when you have a BCI connected to virtual reality environments, then you can actually have a representation of yourself, an avatar, and talk with others and have an actual interaction with the environment in a much more intuitive way, and help them have a life that could be in a virtual domain, but still help them communicate with other people.
It seems an exciting domain. Thank you very much. Well, as we go to the VR concept, I can see Adnan Hadzi Selimovic is here with us. Well, there's also a growing interest in metaverse, and there are issues of protecting users from cyber crimes, as Adnan stated in his presentation. And Adnan, can you hear us? Ah, hello, Adnan. Ah, so sad. His mic is not working because he told us some very interesting ideas. Paulina has raised her hand. Paulina.
Hi. Congratulations for the conference. I just have a question for Nefeli, if that's all right. Nefeli, your project truly sounds very exciting, and of course, like the time for the presentation is very limited for you to tell us all the background. I was wondering what kind of methods have you used for the brain activity, data processing, and analysis and feature extraction? If you could possibly tell us a bit about this.
The actual the data that we can use from the brain not to record, the data that we can record, the raw data, it's for all the brain signals that the EEG, the emotive interface, can record. So this is the raw data that we can get in order to research, and that we have used a lot in the medical rehabilitation project to actually research and draw results from recording the brain activity during a VR experience. But in terms of interaction, the solid data that we can have so we have this kind of restrictions of using the BCIs as an interaction tool when we want to apply that to a large public, because there is a issue with training the EEG. You have to train the actual system to the specific brain to have solid data for various aspects of the channels that are transferred from the brain. So in that, the answer that we can have to that and that we're using is the focusing the engagement to actually be able to measure the engagement of the user. And this is like a solid data that we can use as an interaction tool, or the disengagement of the user when a certain event is happening in virtual reality. So that with cinematic content can lead to a certain type of interaction in the narrative. So we have used that as a main way of interaction. However, this is a research project and an experimental project that is in progress. And we are trying to add, as I said in the presentation, to combine that with also biofeedback, meaning to measure other feedback from the user, such as sweating, such as the palms, so to add an interface that can measure the stress of the user. So combine the engagement and the stress with the palm bits and with bracelets, so we can have an actual biofeedback combined, so that we can have an interesting narrative where the user can see when their focus is on a certain action of the movie, if they are in at the same time in a stressful situation or not, and we're using that in the narrative to create an interesting result. So in terms of raw data, we have a multitude of channels that we can record and use that for research to draw results. But in terms of using it as in the gameplay as a narrative, there we have to go into one very solid input that we have from the brain that we can have for all type of viewers, because for the other channels we have to really train the system to be able to have the consistency in the results.
Now that's brilliant. Thank you very much. When you say attention or focus, do you mean, for example, the levels of the alpha band brainwave, or do you mean the plugin that is used by the emotive hardware and software?
We're using the hardware of the software that goes with emotive, but with added algorithms that we have developed in the context of the project to analyze and be able to adapt that to a wide variety of brains, let's say. So we have to do, so it's not a plug and play solution emotive for anyone. I wouldn't suggest that it is an innovative technology that needs to be developed to have a consistency. We have the engagement of the user as a promise of emotive that it gives you that possibility, but still there is development to be made to be able to use that in a consistent way in a cinematic narrative.
Thank you, and all the best of luck with your results and your final release.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the discussion. Is there any other question? Minas.
My question is to Dr. Kensinger or Dr. Albarazi from Qatar. First of all, congratulations on your presentation. It was very interesting. And on the matter of cultural, intangible cultural heritage, you mentioned that you use reenactment as part of the preservation process. And my question is, when you're doing that sort of reenactment, do you focus on being historically accurate or accurate according to the oral tradition? Or do you also allow for artistic expression? And how do you balance those two different aspects of trying to be factual, but also presenting something through a medium that is inherently artistic?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. Alla is here as well, and I'm very happy because we can balance, I think, the answer from the two perspectives. I'm coming at it from the reenactment side, the performance, intangible heritage, and reenactment. And it's quite interesting because we had two paths that were simultaneous in this particular project, and they were both very real. In our research team, we actually had two students who were real in the sense that these paths were their paths and this was their history. And so they had not been to their paths in this way, not to reenact and not to walk. They had driven to their paths. They had been to their paths to go to their winter homes, but they never tried walking in this way. And so in that sense, the reenactment was very real. It was the real location. We were, while they're introduced to sites that were specific to their family history, that they introduced us as a whole research team to. But at the same time, we came prepared on the two expeditions. So one was in the north of Qatar and one is in the south of Qatar. One, a nomadic family. They are not nomadic now. Since 1959 with gas, people have settled. But they still have a tradition of going into this desert every winter. The northern path is quite different from the southern path. The northern path circulates around water, always on the move in the past. And the southern path, these are, I would call them like extreme endurance artists. The Almari family, these nomads are some of the grandest nomads you can imagine. They walk in the past from Qatar, Kuwait, all the way down to Oman. So they go through the empty quarter. I mean, extraordinary walkers or nomads. We were situated only in Qatar. And we went with the intention of this to, we went to reenact on site, to have a reenactment, to be real, to step in and to co-layer with history and with the past, so the two women, Sarah and Maha, could actually step into the footsteps of their great-great-grandmothers, literally. So this was very real. But on the other hand, we were also imagining it the entire time what the future exhibition would be. And so we came well prepared with filmmakers, and Ala also does AR, VR, as well as filming. And we had a sound artist on site, and all of this with the intention of gathering from the perspective of the two real participants who were really the stars of all of this, from their physical reenactment and from their experience, to absorb in a multi-sensory way everything that they were experiencing, to gather that through whatever means we could, which involved, I mean, I'll let Allah speak to this more, but the plan is we have an exhibition coming up in October for the Qatar Creates series. We have this beautiful heritage house, and we're rebuilding the paths in a very evocative, poetic way, where our future participants will be walking in a path that is a fusion of the two paths inside of a building, surrounded by the sound and also by a lot of the words. So I'm very interested in the linguistics of the desert, especially Bedouin language, which is very endangered. And so we work with an ecologist and linguist. And so we'll have words that are situated within, very evocatively displayed, which will be multilingual. Arabic is not Bedouin, Bedouin's not Arabic. So we'll have Arabic and Bedouin and English immersed in that space as well. But Allah, I should let you speak. But yeah, I think you're on mute. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. So we're talking about, let me just talk a bit about the technicality of the journey. It was really fun. I mean, we loved each small details. We went there, still remember, like having fabric on top of our head to protect from the sun. We don't have a clear script when we film, actually. We let the site, the situation, the animal, we cannot go to this area, we can go to other one. So filming process and documentation was fun for me. It's the first time I go without a clear script to the site. And we didn't even just film, actually. As Dr. Astrid mentioned, we use sound recordings, and we attach mics to the bodies of both Sarah's and Maha, and we let them walk there. So we record every small details. We use like high quality 360 cameras to not just do the reenactment for ourselves. We wanted to stay there for others. And we want people also to feel and to live each moment from their own choice, from their own perspective. So later on, we will inject everything into VR, and we let both the 360 filming plus the 360 sounds recording, which is really important here, to stay there, and you can go and visit it and pick which direction you want to see and watch, and kind of walk around. Also, we're working on, this is actually a huge project where, we want to put that in AR, and we're kind of replicating what's in Qatar, as have a virtual layers all over Qatar. And we want to inject this 360 there on that location. So we're building an AR location-based app that you can locate that installation, locate that artwork there on that specific site. So you invite people, there is invitation there where people have to go to the site to visit it and to watch it. So we'll have the exhibition on October, but at the same time, the installation, the film itself or the documentation itself is going to stay there forever virtually. And yeah, I mean, it's fun when you look to the future of filming from like how it's different from keeping it on the TV on a 2D screen to be there on the 3D real life. Don't know if you have any question related to that. We're happy to answer.
Oh, thank you for your answers. I think it's a very innovative, your approach, and you're all rebuilding the culture with the media that we have today, like rebuilding the experience and not just documenting in a historical way, or just thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? that would like to make a question? Well, I'm glad to see Anastasios Tsakaliadis Sotirakoglou. It's not the first time that we have Anastasios in our conference, so we are glad to see you again. Anastasios is quite interested in the various aspects of darkness. Anastasios, would you like to tell us a few things for your work?
Hello. I'm glad to see you for the third time this year. I guess all presentations I've made for this conference have been linked to video games in some sense, but it also deals with some thematics concerning psychoanalytical or philosophical issues, mostly linked with death or dark issues like mental disorders this time. So this is all like part of a wider study concerning the death drive and its psychoanalytical or philosophical understanding. And now I'm just in a position of, I finished my master's finally, and I'm like in search of supervisor. So to start a PhD like on a broader subject. I'm kind of sad Miss Honorato is not here. I would like to speak with her eventually. This time she's not with us in the meeting.
We will arrange a meeting if you are interested to talk with her.
Maybe I might send her an email because I think she would be interested in some future please talk or maybe some sort of cooperation.
I'm sure she will be.
If you want to ask anything, I'm here. Thank you.
I was very interested in your work because I don't know if you remember, we had the previous year a video game design specifically designed for a major depressive disorder.
I remember.
Yes, that reminded me of that work, and I was really curious. How many games did you study for your presentation for this paper?
For this one, I only studied the ones I presented. Was it like 4 or 5 games? I mean, most of them I had like half of them at least I had already played or I was intent on playing. Some of them I did for the needs of the presentation, especially like Depression Quest. Like I just had to try that like a few days before filming the presentation. But you know, it's like creating some using some examples. It's mostly, to me, it's mostly about the meaning. It's mostly about creating a methodology of understanding what I study. It's not so much about presenting everything related to the matter, because now this issue is kind of expanding. And I have to say, this time I was really interested in the presentation before mine of Mrs. Christina Chrysanthopoulos. She's not with us. Well, it's like her subject was so close to my field of study, and I was really impressed on the way she incorporated video and gameplay examples, and she created all of this very complicated subjects. She put all of these things together, very ambitious. But it's like we sometimes when we focus on the technical aspect a lot, like I did this thing this year. Maybe sometimes we miss the theoretical aspect, and that could kind of broaden the discussion on why we study these digital examples. Like it's not just presenting, it's about actually studying, it's about actually creating arguments, scientific, philosophical arguments. That's most of the question, and maybe not enough conversation is spent on this issue.
Okay, thank you. Nefeli Dimitriadi has raised her her hand.
Yeah, I'd like to just fill in for Christina Chrysanthopoulos. She's a PhD student. I supervise her PhD, and her subject in her thesis is the representation of death, specifically with those in video games is one chapter of her PhD. So it's with extended reality, and she has done a lot of theoretical research, as you've seen in her presentation. And she actually asked me, because she wasn't able to be at this meeting, if anyone has to link you, if someone has similar research interests, it would be good to put you in touch to share your findings. So after this, maybe we can exchange some emails and put you in touch with her.
Well, I definitely do, because like at first I kind of wondered, like, oh my God, this is like this subject is so close to the PhD I wanna try, but okay, it's not a matter of antagonism or anything, or of course it's like different.
There is room for so much research on these domains, everything, including, as we discussed before, it's such a new field when we're talking about also the link with cinematography, with aesthetics, all the theoretical issues. So it's a really broad, these are really broad subjects that I think many researchers can search in parallel and focus on different aspects. So it would be good to connect and share your ideas. And
just found it very inspiring, and just hope maybe sometime I'll learn to incorporate videos into presentations rather than do these boring PowerPoints. Like this would take things to another level, especially with video games. Anyway.
I'm really glad to see such connection being formed here, and thank you very much for that. This is very nice for an open mic session. Well, is there any other question? Is there anyone that would like to add something that didn't have the time to do so in the presentation? Maybe Ευτυχία with Professor Eliadis, is that right? Would you like to stress something regarding your presentation?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I will be very short, and I will then hand you over to Ευτυχία. This is a research that started a few months ago, so it's an early research of the learning class. I hope you found it interesting. This is a setup that Ευτυχία has brought over from the United States. There have been quite a few experiments with this technology, mainly on scientific teaching. Having this debut in Greece, we tried to figure out, to explore the whole range, if you like, of educational level. We started off from the elementary school, checking the cognitive aspects and pedagogical, if you like, aspects. And at the same time, we try to build a model of hybrid education based on learning class. And this is what we currently do. But the reason we entered this conference is to see whether we can use such a setup on art classes of any kind. And in that sense, any feedback from people that watched, that attended our lecture will be very welcome.
The truth is that it's the first time that I hear or see about the learning class or lightboard, as you call it. It was really interesting. As I told before, I'm not capable of drawing, so I could not use it in my classes. But just a question, because you told if we could use it. What is the price of the equipment?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
What is the cost of it?
Yeah. So this tool is used in the United States, and there are many people created that, and they use it in a different setting, and they use it in a different way, which means that Anderson uses that in a hybrid mode, but he uses some computers at iPad. So at 2016 he created that. he got the trademark and he named it Learning Glass, and he's selling that. I can give you his link so you can see how and how much it costs. But other researchers like Skimbinski created a similar tool, which is a light board. The light board has a different cost and it can be used with a projector. The point is that we would like to create more of this. The Ionian University can create more of this, and then we can distribute all these learning glasses in the Greek schools, which means that we don't need to spend a fortune by importing them from the United States. We can create that because me and the Hellenic American Academy, where I work and I do my research, and I love doing that. It's a non-for-profit organization. We created that, and it's inexpensive. So in the United States, it might cost $4K, but here we can make one with like 1/4 of it. It's not expensive if you can find the right material.
When you say make it, is it something that we can do it by ourselves? We can find the plans and design. Okay.
Steve Krause created that with me, so we can use it and help all the families that we help in Zakynthos Island. And we hope to do the same thing with Professor Iliadis in the Ionian University as well, and have some cooperation.
This is a very interesting idea, and yes, we should discuss it further. Well, but I have a question. What is the difference if we compare it to other mediums, such as the interactive boards that we usually see in classrooms?
Great question.
What is the main difference?
When you use an interactive computer, like a smart board, you might say that, right? Okay, or a blackboard, let's say the simplest tool. You just turn your back to the student. So you interact with the student, but your face is lost. But if I go behind the glass and I bring it closer to you, we wanted to show how we can use it, but we didn't have the time. So we might do it in the next conference we're going to attend, and I hope it will be with you so we can have the time to show more of it, like in a live setting with students, with real students. If we go behind that, I can see your eyes, you can see my face, we can see the gestures, and we can talk, and we can exchange information and everything. That's the real deal there, that we can see each other without turning our back. Thank you for the question, I appreciate it.
Okay, I see. The truth is that it's not very convenient when you have to turn your back to your classroom and start writing. Yes, I see that. Is there any question for the light board or something else? Anastasios, please.
If I'm allowed, I would like to return to the conversation concerning AI art. Like, I listened to the discussion before a little, and I am kind of wondering, like, maybe this is a very interesting field for interdisciplinary discussion between like the more technical aspect and the more theoretical aspect. I mean, personally, I'm an art historian. I've studied like these disciplines, more traditional disciplines, not so accustomed to these mediums. But I'm wondering if the people dealing with AI art consider everything created by an AI art mechanism as being art. In a sense, like this kind of returns us to a conversation concerning the criteria of art, of how we understand it, how what position do we give it in civilization, in history. I mean, at least in my opinion, like generating a picture does not equal creating art. Like the AI program is a medium, it's a tool, but just, I mean, the way it currently works, the ease it has given to the user, but at the same time, this creates such a mediated experience. Like I've toyed with AI programs a little, but I do not feel that I have created art. then this is like on many levels. First is the involvement of the user with the medium. Second is the intentionality. And third, I think it's like transcoding, like it's transcoded language. You write something and something else pops out. Like maybe this is the first time that someone can create something that can be considered as being art in such a mediated way. Because you do not write code, you just write words, and it's like there's so much distance between creator and creation. And the third, of course, is like the historical aspect that maybe, I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but maybe we are overestimating the importance and the revolutionary aspect of this whole thing. I mean, up to now, we have not seen such results. We have not seen like artists going, going unemployed, or like the whole art stock market completely blowing up because like anyone can create art, anyone can create a masterpiece just because they typed something in like an AI program. Like I'd like maybe we have the time to hear some opinions on this, if someone wants to elaborate.
I'll jump in really fast. Coming in from the phenomenal, like I'm coming in from the body base, the phenomenological, the haptic, the somatic, the reenactment, the physical, full sensory space. And I play with AI a lot. I mean, on the side, just to get to know what's happening and to understand it. Honestly, I feel maybe it's just intuitive, maybe it's my age, I don't know. But I think the future of art is going to be more and more focused on the live, real, in the moment, participatory, fully engaged, multisensory space, because it's so easy now to play in the digital space. I mean, I'm putting this out there to be provocative. So there you go, I'm done. But I do think that somehow there will be a monster resurgence of the participatory and the immersive outside of the screen and outside of the mediated, back into the real and the lived. You cannot replicate that yet. You can replicate almost everything else. That's to be provocative. I'm curious to hear the response.
We have two provocative opinions against how many?
Leonidas, would you like to add something?
Yes. I would like to make a comment to Anastasios about this section about AI art. Okay, first of all, my opinion, of course, I think nobody will lose his job in the future with this implementation of AI art. One simple example is the photographs. When they were invented, no artists were unemployed, no one. And still now, the photographic section of art is a very good branch of arts that can produce very powerful forms of art and images. Also, for all people that consider AI art strange or not of the same value with the original art, okay, it's a different form of expression. Art is expression. If someone has something in his mind and wants to depict it, if he succeeds in a way with various ways, one way like this is AI art, AI image prompting. So, okay, maybe it shows some distance. I mean, it's not that warm like it's your touch with the paper and the drawing and etc. But there is also another form of producing these images. It's not just by simply writing a text. I want, as I told in the previous example, a cat bicycling in the streets of London. Okay, that is a simple prompt, a simple text. The true form of art, though, is how can you produce it as exactly as you imagine it? If you play with it, if you make many tries, if you rewrite the text, if you use different keywords, if you use different rules, then something else pops up. So that is art. And last but not least, as I told in the previous comment I did, very powerful and interesting is to combine original art with AI art. And if somebody in the future says that AI art is not art, if you combine your pieces of art with AI art, nobody can say a word about that, because it's a blend, it's a blending of pieces of art. So that is my tidbits. I would like to hear more of your comments and your opinions.
Okay, Evi Bokovo.
Yes, hi, thank you. I just wanted to add that this is like the oldest battle concerning art. What is art? And I mean, if an artist uses photographs taken by another artist, but he uses them to make a collage that completely changes the picture, he has made a piece of art. So if someone types something using a mean, means like the AI, and then maybe he maybe afterwards he uses Photoshop, for example, then he's implemented enough to say that it's his piece of art. So, but who gets it's a thing that who gets the credit at the end? Do I say that it's mine, Evbokov, who made this picture, or did I make it using the AI?
I can answer that. By the time you produce something, in Photoshop or not, it is your art. It is not Photoshop's art. Or if you produce it via AI image prompting or an AI engine, it is your art, not the AI engine's art or the one who invented the AI engine. It is your art. So without doubt, your art is whatever comes from your heart and your head to either the paper or the PC or the pentagram or everything.
I can make a short comment. I think that we can ask the company running the data center and the resources that they offer for us to run these models and execute our commands. Lionel also would like to add something.
Yes, or maybe Catherine, if you wish.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, I just wanted to,
My apologies.
like, on this question of is it our art if it's produced by an AI? I think one of the points that's missing from this discussion is the question of hidden labor in AI systems. And how do you square it as well with artists whose work is mimicked by AI? I mean, that has been a huge issue for a lot of artists. AI systems are producing work in the style of specific comic book artists, for instance, who are not getting any remuneration from these systems. So, I'm thinking, there is an ethical question here about, these systems have been trained by scraping images from the internet. without permission. There's a number of ongoing sort of copyright and legal cases in this area. But it's also, you know, I would actually dispute the earlier suggestion that no one is going to lose their jobs over AI, perhaps not lose their jobs initially, but I think there is a real risk of AI devaluing the jobs of illustrators and photographers, because it's a kind, it potentially, and just to be clear, I mean, I do experiment with AI, I'm very interested in AI myself, but there is a real risk of a similar kind of de-skilling that occurred with automation in the Industrial Revolution. It makes the work comes to be seen as rote and de-skilled and therefore less valuable. You know, that I think that is a real danger. And sorry, I know this is quite a lot of thoughts coming out at once here, but I'm wondering what other people think about this issue about AI and labour, not just hidden labour in terms of the people who create the images that have fed the systems, that do the work of tagging the images of the systems, but also, you know, the potential impact on artists and people who make their living from creating images.
Thank you, Catherine. We have also Paulina, but I think that Lionel had asked us to tell something before. So, Lionel, please.
Yes, just a few words about what Evi Bokovu said. We can quote Kenneth Goldsmith with uncreative writing, who says that it's not necessary to have an original written text, for example, but we can take existing text and rearrange it, and it's still art. So it's near that what you said, it's that we can take an existing material and play with it in such a way. And about what Anastasia said, I agree a little with you, as it's a problem of process in creating art. We don't feel that we're creating art by generating something, a scene, an image, or other thing. But I think that the important point is serendipity. It's the way that you gain something living and something you didn't attend to. And we can quote multi-agent systems, for example, artificial beings that are systems that live by itself. And the interesting point is not the static image, but what it tells us about itself. What is the emerging function? And by this point of view, it's a difference between a static results and something more dynamic, more interactive. And maybe the difference between the fear we can have about jobs in arts and what I think it will happen is the difference between a pro that will have a meaning in his creations. He will have a process, a particular process, and by this way there will be semiotic, a particular semiotic, and an amateur that will generate images, scenes, but without the same soul in what he creates. And today we have this questioning about generative art. Does the machine produce something with a soul in its creation? I think that amateurs will produce images or whatever, but with less intention than a pro, than an artist that will really input meaning, semiotics in his creations. And this way, we can have a serendipity. Hans Gadamer, the philosopher, said, you have in interpretations 3 types of intention: the author intention, the reader intention, and the text intention. The text intention is what the text tells about itself and on the author's subconscious, for example. And this way, the text itself is largely more interesting than only its meaning. That's what I think, but I can mistake.
Thank you very much. Paulina.
Hi again. So I'm not an AI expert, just to be clear. I do agree with Evie and Catherine. I mean, in terms of the question, what is art? I think, in a way, this has kind of settled at the beginning of the 20th century, and the work of Marcel Duchamp and modernism. But there are significant ethical, regulatory, and legal considerations for AI, because as we know, the current drive towards this development and all tech development really is that often it precedes regulation, right? And there are questions about who owns the product of AI, what happens about the labor based on which the AI algorithms have been trained. For example, for those of us that have a bit of experience in film production, we know that if you're going to shoot a scene in front of a sculpture, like in an outdoor space, you need permission for this, right? The artist or whoever owns the sculpture might actually sue you and ask you to pay them some license. The same applies if you shoot a film in front of a painting. So there is this consideration when it comes to intellectual property, of course, but there are also very important ethical and legal consideration when that are related to the fact that, in certain cases, or to the best of my understanding, the algorithms and the way that AI deliver results is rather opaque. And now we are talking about creativity, but AI are deployed, for example, in banking, right? And recently, EU has announced that they're going to try to regulate this, because an AI might actually, analyze your credit score and make a decision whether you are entitled to apply for a loan. Now, when a human does this job, this is much more easier to check whether the result and the decision is fair and correct. But when an AI does this job and we don't know exactly how this is calculated, then things become more opaque and potentially more unfair. This doesn't mean that AI is going to bring, the doom or a certain catastrophe, right? But I think it's important to keep these minds and try to have these conversations in order to reach some results and potentially some kind of regulation. So that's all for me.
Thank you very much. I read a very interesting comment by Astrid. She says that so far AI image generation pulls from global north. I think you talk about inclusivity because we feed the model with the images that we can provide in the developed world, in the developed countries.
Oh, developed, I wouldn't use that word necessarily. No. I would say certainly, no, I mean, I would say that the data that is being churned and fed upon and is escalating up into our, wonderful image generations that we get instantaneously. Yeah, it's when I play a lot with Midjourney. This is not about my research that I shared with you today, but I do. And but I've lived overseas most of my life and most in Asia. If I try to churn up text prompts for any artist in Asia, I get minimal responses. I get plenty if I do Muka overload, tarot card overload. I don't do that, but it's overload, instant gratification. If you try to go for seminal artists outside of the global north, minimal really difficult. So I'm not that impressed yet. I don't think it's inclusive. I mean, inclusive and yet still problematic, right? I mean, we're talking here about putting in a text prompt that asks for something in the style of someone quite famous, which is following up on the previous conversation. But I have done this with, and I've found that the responses are minimal when it goes outside of the cluster of the global north.
Thank you. Thank you for this comment. Also, Catherine has raised her hand. Catherine, please.
Yeah, just to sort of pick up on that as well. I mean, I think, there's been many discussions by many people who know much more about the subject than I do about the issues of bias and power in artificial intelligence. And I think Astrid's quite right about this. It's very much pulling from the global north. It doesn't have a global view. But I think as well, this extends far beyond, just image-based AI. And we also have to consider, who it is that has the resources to actually train these AI systems and for what purposes they're training it for. Like there's a really interesting article I read, it's in that book, Your Computer is on Fire, about voice assistant AIs, things like Siri and Alexa and all these kind of things. And they work well with what are called standard accents, so British English, American English, and so on. But as soon as you get to non-standard accents, they falter badly. And one of the author's points that they were making was that, it's companies like Apple and Google and Amazon that are developing these systems. And, they are developing systems that are geared for their markets, for their own commercial interests. And I think this is true of all AI systems to an extent, but their argument was until there is actually a financial imperative, a commercial imperative to provide access for, say, in the case of voice assistants, accents that are not currently represented or languages that are not currently represented, they simply will not be developed, because these are systems that, individuals, small companies just simply do not have the resources to develop, because it requires so much data and so much computer time and so on. So, until there is a question here, it's like until there is a point, and maybe there will be a point in the future where it becomes possible for small groups or individuals to train AI systems, how many people, perspectives and so on are going to be missed out of these systems simply because the commercial imperative is not there. So I don't know how we change that, if that can be changed, but I think that has to be a part of the discussion in this space.
It sure has to be a part of the discussion. Thank you very much, Catherine. Anastasios, would you like to add something?
Miss Polina's yoga, she mentioned Disan. Like the example of Disan is very interesting here, because to my understanding, Disan is the exact opposite of AI art. I mean, we can create we can find some common ground on how maybe he has been received. But I mean, how many people have you heard that they will see a contemporary artwork or say, oh, I can do this. Why is this in a museum? I can do better. Like anyone can do this. Like it's the exact opposite, because Duchamp used the acclaim of an artist and his very deep knowledge of an artistic tradition to change the way it is perceived and the forms it can make. I mean, and Duchamp, in the sense, it was the absolute author, but not by creating an absolute interpretation of the work, but by using the open semiotics of an object to completely change the discussion towards what we know today as contemporary art. So he was very, very, very intentional, not exactly on the interpretation of his works, but the way they would be received. Now, what happens with AI art is like the creation of the artwork is facilitated a lot but we do not always know about the intentionality. I mean, Mr. Lionel Ladum, of course, I mean, if someone is so conscious and so philosophically conscious about how he plays or how he uses the AI artwork, yes, of the AI program, of course, yes, this could lead to an artwork because it is seen as a tool used by an artist who has already been acclaimed or has already followed some sort of tradition. But I mean, the question is like, will the artist as an author stop to exist because anyone can become an artist now just by typing something? I mean, maybe we have already answered this, and I think we tend to agree mostly. But yeah, I found the example of Duchamp very, very interesting because I mean, that's the absolute example of the artist, like the artist just as a personality, not an artist who Duchamp is an artist by his name, not by just his images, not by just creating. He's not a content creator. Like now we have too many content creators. We wonder if we have any artists.
Thank you, Anastasios. Paulina?
Just to clarify, I'm not an art historian like Anastasios says, so I'm not going to get in the way of his expertise, but I did mention Duchamp as an example of an artist that employs creative methodologies that are, similar or relevant to AR. I just mentioned this as a milestone of contemporary art when when he became active and started presenting his ready-mades, there was a shift in the understanding of what art is or is not. So I think from that point onwards, the definition of art became much broader. So only in that sense, and not going in the discussion, of the actual creativity and methodology between AR and what is content creation and what is art creation.
True, yeah. I did not want to, to explain this sense. I just want to understand like how exactly it fits in the conversation. Just find it more of an inspiration to answer. It's not so much of a critique. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Astrid? We can't hear you. Your mic is...
Sorry. With Duchamp, there's one other point that's maybe interesting and not intentional in this exchange today, but Duchamp, of course, his urinal is plagiarized, supposedly, right? From a woman artist. And so the whole idea of the reappropriation or the taking and this is another area that we could potentially discuss if you want to bring Duchamp into the conversation in the context of AI and taking images from others.
I've never heard of this, actually, never. Is this the new Hilma af Klint?
No, it's not so new. It's about 5 years. And Duchamp, apparently, the urinal, I can find the article if you'd like and put it into the chat.
Oh my God, this is like kind of groundbreaking.
Yeah, and The Guardian, The Guardian's not the... I'm putting it now. I pulled it up because we're having a conversation around Duchamp.
Okay, so. We have the link.
So,
Thank you.
Maybe he is the spirit image of, persona of the contemporary space of AI art because of this.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to add something to this? We will run out of time, I think also. Perhaps if Panagiotis, you're reading the article, okay. And Paulina has raised her hand.
Why didn't I know about it?
Just to make a joke, right? I think, the way that AI and AR has dominated this open mic session probably shows us a bit that unless, we start using AI in our creative practice, we might actually perish. So I'm just saying this as a joke, right?
And for the moment, we have only discussed about the use of AI for image creation. But I've also used it many times for code, for programming code generation, to test it by using large language models. We have to see many exciting things also there. That's right, ChatGPT.
I have a question for ChatGPT. I'm an editor for a couple of international journals, and I've encountered quite a few where I had to send it back and say I'm not comfortable because it's completely generated in ChatGPT. But then it's probably being translated. Is there a policy yet globally on if you're using it for translation purposes? Surely that should be okay. Super translator. But I mean, the research is authentic. It's just that the text is too well written when it's coming out of the places that I'm reviewing.
Catherine, please.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any sort of formal policies, but I mean, obviously working in education, I mean, we've been discussing, ChatGPT, obviously in the context of essay writing for students and so on. I mean, obviously there is a question about, if it's entirely generated by ChatGPT, that's clearly a problem. But, what's the difference really, if students are using it, or, academics are using it, whoever's using, writers are using ChatGPT to find, new ways of phrasing things, to, as you say, perhaps translate things, correct things. Is it really that great a leap from software like Grammarly or, even spell checkers in Word? I mean, okay, we call ChatGPT an artificial intelligence, but at the end of the day, it is just an algorithm. Like, artificial intelligence puts this kind of gloss on things. It makes them sound smarter than they are. It's just a fancy algorithm. So, I think there are, ways that these systems can potentially be quite productive, but we need to be quite careful and think carefully about how we are using them and for what purpose. But I mean, I don't want to drag the AI conversation out for a lot longer, but I mean, I'm interested to know what other people think about the sort of, is it that much a leap, say, from a system like a spell checker or Grammarly to using ChatGPT to aid in writing as opposed to create writing from nothing? Because I think anyone is tried with these systems, we know that they don't, I mean, I'm not saying they won't one day, but they don't really do well with flow of a long text yet. They also hallucinate and make things up a lot of the time. So I don't think it can be relied on for generating text from scratch, but as a tool to help aid writing, I think it could potentially be very useful. I'll shut up now.
Thank you very much. I see a comment from Panagiotis Kyriakoulakos that he uses generative AI for coding in Arduino, and they will present a small workshop. Oh, that would be very interesting. If you'd like to tell us something, you can open your microphone, or if you can't, it's okay. Anastasios has raised her hand, or Catherine. Which one was first?
Oh, sorry, I think mine's still up from before. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay, no problem.
I just want to say, I agree with Catherine. I think up to now, I'm not an expert, of course, in it. I've just messed with it a little. It seems to be just an improved tool, like that incorporates a very good encyclopedia that is just a bit more dynamic. It feels more like a dynamic encyclopedia that can mix ideas and concepts and knowledge in ways that are but they're not just a pure copy paste. But at the same time, I cannot see that I cannot see a real intelligence there, like something that can create a groundbreaking difference, like in a sense of a machine-generated artist or poet. Like as I said, like even if like it is still impressive how, for example, how fast like this program can write a poem in perfect prose with syntax, with all the but at the same time, in what sense is it a poem if the one who writes it does not feel anything? It just mixes some like stereotypes of what consists of poetry. Maybe I mean, if this like takes the place of artists or poets or writers or scientists or students, it shows, maybe it shows the weaknesses of our civilization, of our own culture. I think it kind of shows our weaknesses more than its strengths. Like how can we really become creative if we how creative can humanity stay if they are so afraid of a program becoming more creative than them? I mean, I don't see that happening yet, at least.
Thank you very much, Anastasios. Well, it seems like this discussion could take for quite a long time. Perhaps, Michalis, we have to plan another session sometime for AI and its generative and creative uses. But I asked before Panagiotis Kyriakoulakos if he would like to add something. Would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you very much for this very interesting discussion. First of all, I was very excited about what I heard on generative AI and the comments you gave, all of you. I've been in a symposium just a few days ago in Belgium about the art and the age of artificial intelligence. And it seems that they will continue this kind of series in several symposia next year, and etc. So maybe we could try to have a call on this matter for the subject next year in DCAC or other symposia. I think it's a hot subject anyway in the moment. But my comment was about generative AI in the technical spectrum, because we use it mostly to ask in a high-level language, even in Greek, to ChatGPT to do technical things, to program an Arduino and connect physical objects with computers. And because this is a very formal language and with very specific commands, it seems that it's very, very useful for the artists that struggle to do any technical work during their interactive installation, so they can just ask that to ChatGPT and have something very, very soon as a prototype. And this is very very useful and great at the end. And we will try to have such a workshop during our interactive conference and the summer school at Syros Island in July, in the beginning of July. And we will try to implement such prototypes on artistic projects that participants will bring with them during the summer school.
Okay, thank you, Panagiotis. I can see from your faces in the camera that we begin to feel a little bit tired. It was a long day, wasn't it, Michalis?
It sure was, Vasilis. And as you mentioned before, we could this talk could take 4 hours, and I don't think we will ever. It will be easy to end the conclusion, and because it's not that we have a simple answer, yes or no. Is AI able to create art? I don't think that anybody can really answer with a yes or no, and I don't know if we're ever going to have this answer at least soon. So, but there are so many different approaches concerning poetry, text, paintings, and other kind of art, and even what you mentioned about coding. So, and as I don't remember who mentioned that before, if is anybody going to lose his job or something, programmers, artists. A good example is the article that you sent before about The Guardian. Could GPT create this article? I don't think so, yet at least. It may be ChatGPT could create very good articles about the subject, but not an article like this. So I don't want to open a new discussion about that. I know there could be some arguments on this. I want to thank everybody for their participation in this open mic chat, and of course, thank everybody for participating to this conference and for their presentations today. We are renewing our appointment for tomorrow morning for the in-person session here in Corfu. Of course, there will be a live streaming for people that are not here together with us in Corfu to watch it and make some comments maybe later at the discussion that we will have. So thanks again, everybody. Good night and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Vasilis, everybody. Good night all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.